today I'm joined by Shane. Shane is a former member of the Defence Forces, and you have your own business now.
I do, yeah. So I have a sports technology company that I'm running. I set up probably two years ago now. Probably 2. Yeah. No, actually, it's not. It's only about 14 months that it's up and running. But I've been working on it over the last 2 years, and I work with the Dublin GEA as well. With I'm coaching. Kept busy, yeah. 2 young kids as well, so it never ends, you know. So yeah.
And are you out of the army long now, or?
I'm out. I left in 2016.
Okay.
So what I was doing at the time, I was studying business part time in DBS.
Oh, yeah.
So I was in the 7th Battalion. I was working in support company, and I started doing. I done a degree, a part-time degree in business and project management,
Right.
and then I was halfway through that, so I was in year 2.
Okay.
And someone got on to me. He runs a financial technology company, and I was talking to him, looking for advice off him about career decisions and stuff like that. And he said, look, they were recruiting heavily at the time, and they said, look, there's an opportunity to come in here and learn as you're studying, actually learn in real life as well, you know. So that's what I end up doing. Yeah.
And now that you're out now, right? So 2016, do you miss it, or?
Like anyway, I suppose when you talk to the lads, when you say you get the same responses in you miss the crack or you miss the lads. Probably don't miss the commitment that it took. So I had my daughter Quiva was born in 2013. And I have a young lad, Killian, he was born in 2016, I think. 2016. But it was time. You could see the time, the weekends away, and the duties during the week. You know, this sort of stuff. And I done to actually to do the degree. I think it was a $5,000 I needed to get up initially. So I ended up doing then in just 2015. I ended up going overseas. So I said, look, I'll do one more trip overseas and get the money up, and then that's what I'll put into for the education. You know, so that's what I ended up doing. So. I don't regret the decision leaving or anything like that. No. It was just the next. It was just the next step, you know. Yeah.
I often wonder, like, would I regret it? Like, I think I would have been 38 because I joined when I was 17, like, with like the full pension. I'm 33 in September, and I was like, oh jeez.
Only 3 years. Do you know what? I was the same. I joined in 2004, right? So I was 17 as well. But we joined when I joined the end of April. 2004, and the Harrington Road Agreement was just signed at the beginning of April, so it kicked in. Right. So I was never going to get my pension at 21 years unless I think it was you were a sergeant or a CS or higher or something like that, you know. So I made a conscious decision then that after the 12 years I was going to have to do something anyway. So I'm 36 now, so in 2 years time say I would have been finished in the army, so I had to put something in place. I had to do some sort of course or something to set me up for when I finished. So that was the reason, one of the main reasons anyway, to go back to college, you know.
It's good enough as well. But do you remember your first day then going into the army?
I do, yeah. So again, it's funny, I was only 17, but before that, so I turned 17 in the end of January, and by the end of April I was up in Dundalk as a recruit. So I trained the 27th Battalion, and I forgot. I think we had to have passport photos or something. I didn't even drive at the time. I had to get me mad to drop me up to the barracks, you know. But I didn't have passport photos, and I went into the chemist, and they didn't have the yoke. So I ended up having to go up to the airport on the way up, stopping in the airport, going in, finding somewhere to get the passport photos, you know. 'Cause I didn't have a clue. I didn't have a clue what was going on at the time. So like that, only 17. But and my outfit, he didn't want me now. I was playing actually. I was playing minor with Dublin at the time, hurling and football, but my outfit wouldn't sign. So because you were 17, you had to sign the waiver. So my outfit wouldn't sign the waiver for me, you know. So my ma did. But I do still talk. It's funny. I do talk to him now, like, and he says, "Look, it was a good decision in the end. You got there in the end, you know." Funny. But I remember going into Dundalk.
Why wouldn't he sign it? He just didn't.
He didn't want me going into the army. I had a good chance. So I was at the time Dublin. it's different now, but Dublin GA or minor county level was under 17s and under 18s.
Right.
So I would have been under 17 first year minor. So you had 2 years to make the team or to compete in the team.
Yeah.
But my first year I ended up spending in recruit training. So I missed the whole year of games, you know. So that was one of the reasons. And then the other reason was he wanted me to go to college and probably focus on having a career. Like my parents, they both worked with CIE, so I suppose they wanted me or all their kids probably to go do better or whatever, you know. So so the first day in Dundalk, and I didn't have a clue what was going on, to be honest. But I was standing outside and I met a lad that I played hurling with down in Galway. I was on there was this like advanced summer camp for lads that had potential in hurling. So I met a fella down there. He was a few years older than me, and I was standing outside getting the uniform in one of the buildings there in Dundalk, and there he was standing beside me. So straight away I was like, oh, happy day, at least I knew someone, you know. But then onto the back of a truck, and all of a sudden we were told we were going to Monaghan. You know, so everyone on the back of the truck, whatever it was, 40 minutes, an hour later, we're up in Monaghan then, and that's where we done recruit training. So fond memories actually. It was good. It's like, you know, it's like when you talk to lads that you went to school and all. It's not great when you're there, but when you're afterwards and you're looking back on it, you say, Jesus, that was a great laugh, or it was a great time.
Or we got through that.
Exactly. How exactly.
What do we walk for the last 3 days?
Exactly. What's after happening? But a lot of the stuff, a lot of the things I would have done throughout the army or throughout my career within the defence forces like that. You look back at it and go, geez, that was some experience or something. And so stuff that you wouldn't get in any other walk of life or any other career, you know.
When you're in, did you do your 2-3 star in Monaghan then as well, or were you back down to the 27th then?
No, we done everything. So we done everything in Monaghan. I think a crowd came in afterwards then as well, and that was the end. I think they closed down the barracks then in Monaghan then soon afterwards. But we done everything. So we done the 2-star training initially, and then we done a 3-star training up there as well.
Do you remember your buddy, do you?
I do, yeah. He's still in, I think. He's based down in, I think he's in Galway somewhere, yeah. But good times, yeah. And again, there was a group of us that stayed friends for life, you know. So you mightn't see them for a couple of years, but when you do, all of a sudden it's like you haven't missed them, or you haven't left, you know. So
This is not all your weak points.
Do I say there's a few weak points now? Yeah. I think my strong points now. I used to be very fit as well, so I think we'll have some of my weak points. But funny. And something very funny.
Some grief.
Yeah.
But you're out. You finished training, right? Where did you end up then after training? Like, were you kept up north, or were you moved?
No, we were moved straight down. We went down to the 5th Battalion then at the time. Right. So I think there was about 12 of us all together from the whole recruit platoon. There was actually 2 platoons. So everyone then, if you went over the 2nd Battalion, but the majority, there was about 12 of us then that went into McKee, into the 5th Battalion.
You're north side then originally, right?
North side, I'm from Finglas, yeah.
McKee suited you then. So.
It was ideal. It was only 15 minutes up the road, yeah. So it was really good, and really good culture there at the time as well. So before the reorg, it was really good. So obviously there's a massive history there with people, and at the time people were spending their careers in the same unit. So the likes of the senior NCOs and stuff like that would have been there all the way through. So there was a great culture in the place, I think.
Were you in the A Company first then, or straight?
Yeah, no, I was at A Company, yeah. So I was in A Company, spent a couple of years there, and then done signals. I done the signals course. Yeah,
that was the first course you got then, was it? Or?
No. First course would have been we would have done first aid. I done first aid, and then I done, I think it was a vector mortar or something like that, and that qualified me for overseas. So I think it was 2006 then. So it was 2 years in 2006. Then we went to Kosovo, 2006 2007. Yeah. We would have went to Kosovo, so I had to get them courses done to qualify or to get a spot. Exactly.
You have to get you have to meet a certain threshold
criteria. Exactly. Yeah. So that's what he did, and a few of the older lads would have got. I think it was the Leb that went before it stopped, so they would have went to Leb initially, and then it was just a lot of them got driving course and stuff. But I was actually still too young to actually do any of that, you know. So
like 21,
exactly. Yeah. So. Yeah, so that's what I ended up doing then. I ended up doing whatever courses I could do then to get overseas. So that's what I did then initially.
And then the signals course then, was that like the infantry signals course, or was that the com-ops course that you got?
No, it was only infantry signals.
Right.
Yeah. So I ended up then working in signals then in the 5th Battalion.
Right.
Yeah.
So you would have been kept busy enough there, right? Plenty of cash escorts.
Yeah, at the time, yeah, that's exactly what it was. The main thing was cash escorts, and there was only say there was 10 of us in the unit or whatever it was, and you had lads overseas, you had lads looking for promotion or whatever, and then you had lads filling in the gaps then with cash escorts or stand twos and stuff like that. You know, so that's what we done then initially.
Being kept busy enough with the cash escorts. They're gone now as well, right?
That's right. Yeah, they're gone. Yeah.
So you're in signals then. You done a PTI course then as well, did you? Was that in the army then, or was it outside?
Yeah. So I did. So what happened then when I came back from Kosovo? Yeah, I the next step would have been promotion. The next step would have been an NCO's course, and then around I think it was 2007, 2008, they put a hold on overseas, and they put a hold on promotions then as well. So I sort of left in limbo. So what I ended up doing, they ran a leaving cert course. So I hadn't done me leaving. I left school when I was like that 17. I just turned 17. So I'd never done the leaving cert. So in 2008, 2009, I ended up going back and doing the leaving cert through the army. So I ended up going to Pearse College there in Crumlin, and done the 2-year leaving cert cycle.
Yeah.
So that to me that was a game changer then for me within the army. So I had the bad experience with education growing up. So I went to an all Irish school, which was great for the culture, like for the Irish culture and the Irish language and stuff was great. But then when I went there, I that was Skull and Shock Lake, which is a school in Ballymun, really small. I think at the time there might have been only 200 pupils maybe. So it was a real family community type school. And then we ended up moving then into Closh to Wirra, which was based in Parnell Square, another Irish school. But then the Irish didn't suit me then. Once I went up to the next level, like as in you're doing say your junior cert or your leaving cert, it was all Irish. So you can think about when you're doing science or whatever, and some of the words that you'd be using, or even in maths and stuff like that, some of the language you're using, and trying to translate that then into Irish, or it's been taught you in Irish, and then trying to translate it to understand it in English I found it challenging anyway. So I ended up moving then to St. Kevin's there in Finglas I done a year there before I joined the army. But I didn't have a positive experience with school or education until I done my leaving cert then through the army. And over in Pearse College. And the one thing that I always say, it didn't even matter the subjects that you were doing. What they were teaching you was how to learn. That's basically what I came out with after the 2 years, which was unbelievable. Like, because I wouldn't have had that experience. I wouldn't have had a clue. So I would have struggled. Even with the army, course you do in the army, and it just gets bet into you basically. You just keep doing it until you get it right. So. It was a completely different experience then, and it's something that helped me outside, and that's where I am now. Is down to that. Is that 2 years that I've done that leaving cert course, which was.
See, when you were in school, right, and you left, were you still in school and then you left then to go join the army straight away, or were you kind of in limbo for a while?
No, I was. I'll never forget it. I was working. I was only gone into 4th year in school, and we were doing work experience, and it was January. And I was working as a labourer, doing work experience as a labourer for a bricklayer. Right. And he lived in Ashbourne, so we were doing a job out in Meath somewhere. Anyway, he dropped me back to Ashbourne to get the 103, the bus to back to Finglas. And it was manky dirty, and it's a bus airing bus, right? So I went to get on it, and the bus man goes, "No, not a chance of you sitting on my chair. You're not getting on the bus." Well, yeah, it was manky dirty. I think it was digging a bloody foundation or something all day, Right. So it was in bits. And I don't think I had a phone at the time, or the phone was dead or whatever. So I ended up walking from Ashbourne back to Finglas, which was about 14, 15k on an old back road all the way back down. And by the time I got back to Finglas that night, I was like, I'm going into the army, and that was it. So I transitioned straight from 4th year, straight. I was still in school, and then I was gone. Then the following week, then I was up in recruit training,
I left school twice, and I left the army twice. But I left school when I was 16 for an apprenticeship, apprenticeship as a plumber. I hated it. I think I was there for 6 months, and I left school in, let's say, the March, and I was able to get back into school then in
September. Oh, I know what you mean,
So I got back into school in September, but the deal was I was like, I'm not going back to school unless you sign the forms to let me join the army, because I was 17.
Right,
So they reluctantly signed the forms to let me sign up for the army.
Right.
But I was in the army then, from signing up in September, I was in then in the January, I started in the January, 28th of January is when I started, 2008. And I just found like the apprenticeship and working on the construction sites were so much harder than actually being in the army. Now,
really, yeah?
Not the workload was actually harder in the army, right?
Yeah.
Being an apprentice, you're like on your own, like getting shit. Do you know what I mean? And
you know what you mean, yeah.
Billy Goat for everyone else.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. You serve your time.
Down the stairs,
yeah.
And got doing the shop runs and things like that, like your heart was broke.
Yeah.
Whereas in the army, like, you know, it was hard, right? It definitely was hard.
Yeah.
And it was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. But you were together like with a lot of people, so
you're all going through it.
Someone else was suffering.
Yeah.
You were suffering on your own. It's like, so it's funny, like a lot of lads like go down that route. I think probably an apprenticeship would be up there with army training, like, because you're on your own. Like,
true, exactly. Yeah, it could do. Yeah. And again, especially when you're going into a situation like that where you're young, you probably don't have the skills, you don't have the life skills that to be able to deal with some of that stuff. Especially nowadays, the way things are and the way say kids are being treated or mollycoddled or wrapped in bubble wrap and all this sort of stuff, and then all of a sudden when they're 17, 18, you're out in the real world there, and that attitude might be grand for people that are going to college and they have time then to mature even further. But from the lads I know and the lads that I play football and hurling with, it can be a real eye opener all of a sudden. Like you actually see them bouncing around, especially the young lads around 16, 17 when they start their apprentice. The ones that they start with, it's not the ones that they end up doing. So they end up bouncing around to 2 or 3 of them until they mature a small bit and then fall into a place that they like, you know. So
but even lads that like we'd interview here, like that had apprenticeships, like, that maybe done like 6 months or a year in an apprenticeship, like, oh, why did you leave? Oh, just getting a lot of grief on my own.
Exactly, yeah.
I was getting the bus then from, like, you know, wherever you're from, North Dublin all the way down to South Dublin, or South Dublin all the way out to North Dublin. You're going all over the place. Like, you're never in one place for like a period of time. So I was like, this is a nightmare. But, it's interesting though to see, like, that's why there is such a shortage, right? Because it's hard to be an apprentice.
It is, yeah, I think so, yeah. And I just think it's getting the skills at an earlier age. I have a cousin of mine. He's actually he was in school. He finished. I think he was in 4th year, going into 5th year. But again, it wasn't, his school wasn't for him. But he's after going now. He's after going into. There's a college there up in Whitehall, and what they do is they focus in on lads that are looking to go into apprenticeships. So he'll do another year in school, say, but what he'll end up doing, it's all focused in on different careers. So whether he might do a semester doing woodwork, or he might do a semester doing metalwork, or whatever it is, but it's all geared towards getting him in a position that he can go then and do his apprenticeship. You know, so there's definitely more opportunities like that nowadays as well for people. You know, so
I know my school had like woodwork and metalwork. That's what I thought, like, the apprenticeship was the route I wanted to go down. Yeah, but you got the leaving cert anyway, right?
Yeah.
You're there for 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, how did that work then in the army, right? So you applied in the army, you got the leaving cert course, and then you got basically the school term off work. Basically, you had to do duties then in between, or how?
So you done one duty a month. So you were transferred down to the Brigade Training Centre in the Brewer. That's the BTC. Yeah. So that's where we were based then for 2 years, and you worked with them. So basically, you done one duty a month.
Right.
And one weekend, it had to be a weekend because obviously you were at school during the day. And then other than that, then you were doing your school timetable. That's what you're focusing on. Yeah. So I know there was options to do it down the Curragh, or there was options to do it in Pearse College in Dublin, and Pearse College just suited me better.
That's the one up in Crumlin, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then after that, then say during your midterms or your Christmas or anything, you would be brought back to the unit, but you had all your leave and stuff like that, so you'd end up taking the leave. So you weren't really. Yeah. You weren't really there, other than one Saturday or one Sunday a month, you know. Yeah.
Would you back on midterm break runs? Would you be back in for the week?
But that's what I say, you could, but you end up taking your leave then, your annual leave. So you weren't really, you know.
Then back for the summer kind of thing.
And then back, you went back for the summer. I'm trying to remember, did you go back to your unit, or did you stay? I think you went back to your unit. I think you went back for the 2 months or whatever it was. Yeah, with your uni, yeah.
It's a hard course to get though as well, the leaving cert course, right? 2 or 3 people get it a year, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so there was. I'm trying to think now. There was 2 from my unit. There was 2 from the 27th and 2 from the 2nd. So there was 6 altogether. I think that done it over the 2 years. And then in our second year, there was another crowd then coming in doing their first year. You know, so yeah.
And did you find, now when you went back right to do the Leaving Cert, did you find it hard to Leaving Cert?
No, because I never done it before. So I had no experience in it, you know. So I like to do that your Leaving Cert. It's the Leaving Cert cycle. So you do 5th and 6th year. So yeah, you know. So it wasn't So I just went in with my eyes open and said, look, I'm just gonna give it a go and see what happens. And I think by doing it at an older age, or maybe it was just because it was in Pearse College, the focus wasn't really on the subject. The focus was on teaching you how to learn.
Yeah.
You know, like what skills you need. How do you write an essay? How do you structure an essay? How do you read a book and then take that information and use it and make the points that you're trying to make? So that's the biggest thing that I learned. And then I also done actually technical drawings at the time. It's all computerized, so it was all CAD is the name of the program. Yeah. So I end up with technology, then I end up with using that. So there was a tool there that I was actually really good at, and it was another indication to me that was actually technology was an area that I wanted to explore, because it was something that I was interested in, and something that I picked up and understood, you know. So
yeah. And you're back then in the unit then, right after doing the Leaving Cert. What were you at then? Are you back overseas, or are you in the unit?
We went back. So as soon as I got back, then came back to the 5th, and then the reorg was happening. So there was a transition then from the 5th to the 2nd, which I didn't want to go. You know, I don't think anyone did. Yeah. So what I end up doing, and you know what's funny actually, the second year I was doing my Leaving Cert, I ended up buying a house as well. So with my partner Samantha. Right. So we had the house in Finglas. We were transferring over. I didn't want to go. I was looking for a way to stay in McKee. So a trainee's cook's course came up. So so it was 3 months in the officers' mess. Right, so 3 months in the officers' mess, and you worked with them, and at the end of the 3 months, then you went on and you actually done the cook's course. Right. But I was brutal. I still can't cook. Even after my time there, I still can't cook. But I said, look, it's a way. Look, I want to explore it anyway. And the fact that I was moving into the house as well, I said, look, I have to learn to do something, you know. Yeah. So in all fairness, 3 months, and a friend of mine that used to work there, he's retired. He was retired at the time as well, but he got me in. He had a friend, you know, and he got me in. And exactly. Yeah. And he was saying, look, just don't make a ballsy. I said, you know, don't make it. But you get, in fairness, he gave me the chance for 3 months. Now, not for like I can poach eggs now, and I can make a roast dinner, I suppose, now, and all this sort of stuff. And I got that through that. It was a great experience, but there was no way I was being kept on for the cook's course, you know. Yeah. So I ended up being dragged back down to the 5th, and then I was gone. I moved over at the time. I was actually in transport in the 5th Battalion. So I ended up going over to the 7th in the transport down in the 7th.
Yeah. Did you get Mowag, did you? Or?
I did. So I ended up doing. I had a plan. So what ended up happening then, when my daughter was born in 2013, and at that stage then I was looking at what different options can we do and stuff, and we made that decision then. Myself and Samantha made the decision, look, do an overseas trip and get the money up then to go to college and stuff. Yeah. So to get overseas, the one of the easiest spots that you can feel is if you're a Mowag driver. Yeah. So that was the focus then. So when I went back over to the brew initially, then I ended up doing the Mowag course, right. and that gave me the option then the opportunity to go overseas. Yeah. So that's what I ended up doing.
The Mowag course then, that's in the Curragh then for a few weeks.
That was in the Curragh. It was actually long. I think it's 12 weeks or something, maybe 14 weeks altogether. Yeah, so it's pretty intense now. Yeah. The course, but really good, really enjoyable, and it's something that I still like doing. I still like I actually like driving, you know. So something I do. But so I done the Mowags. And that gave me my ticket then to head to the Leb then in 2016.
But before you become a Mowag driver, right, you have to do jeeps and trailers, minibus, and then truck. That's right,
yeah.
Truck and trailer before you do Mowags?
No, you don't have to do it. So I didn't do the truck and trailer. I done the jeeps, the trailer, the minibus, the trucks, and then so I started that. I done all the Jeep and all that sort of stuff in the 5th Battalion, and then when I went over to the 7th when it was set up, then that's what I just done the Mowags then. So yeah.
You got the 0.5 course then done, or did you have to be TOET?
You had to be up to TOET level. So before we left, we done like a 2 weeks refresher type thing, so that got us up to that level, and then that was one of the prereqs before the Mowag course.
Right.
A bit like you have to have your ITs done, you have to have your medical done, all that sort of stuff.
Have to use it,
Is that exactly? Yeah.
Just, right. And in the lab then in the Mowags, right?
Yeah.
Were you in the Mowags much then over there, or?
Yeah, so most of the time, so there was an hour post actually, 245 or something like that, whatever it was called. I can't remember now. So as soon as we got to the lab, we were out there for 2 months.
Okay.
So we spent the first 8 weeks on an outpost, and you're on the blue line, and Israel, you're monitoring Israel. But so we would have been the Mowag drivers. So everywhere you went, there was a couple of Jeeps there. So if you're going back to the camp or whatever, but if you're going out with the lads, you would have been in the Mowags, you know. So so you would have spent most of the time, most days you'd be doing maintenance checks and stuff like that, you know, and then you'd be out driving them. Yeah. So
what's the mission out on the lab? It's to monitor the ceasefire, is it, between Israel and Lebanon? Is that what it is?
Yeah, and observe. It's more like an observation post, really. That's what you're doing. You're observing what's going on in the area, you know, and then everything gets reported back. Like, and if you think about the UN, they're everywhere, you know, and that just helps build that picture of what's going on, you know.
Right. So you're back from overseas then.
Yep.
Back into college then, DBS.
Into college and DBS.
How did you decide what you're going to do in DBS?
I didn't. So the best option with Dublin Business School, I knew I wanted to do something with business. I knew that's where I wanted to go, because again, I'm not, like, I wasn't going to be an apprentice. I wasn't going to go back and do stuff like that. I'm actually great with my hands, you know. If I have a problem in my gaff, I just ring my brother or my uncle or someone, and they come and fix it, you know. So I knew it was going to be something in the corporate space. So the degree I did in business management, what you did was your first 2 years was general business, and then it was the third year, then you focus on your main point. So I said I'll go in and I'll do the general stuff, and then by the time that's done, I should have an idea of where I want to go.
And did you leave in between doing the degree, or did you leave after you done your degree?
Yeah, so during it, so I done my first year in DBS. I was still in the army, and then I was halfway through my second year, and I actually got on to a fella that I played football with, and he was the CEO of a Fintech company. Now, I didn't know how big they were. I didn't know much about financial technology or anything like that. And I just texted him looking for a bit of advice about what should I do. It was actually that question of, at the end of the business management, what should I focus in on? I was thinking of psychology, like business psychology and stuff like that. And he just said, no, what you want to look at is any like project management or product consultant or anything like that. So through that conversation with him, he actually said they were expanding at the time. So that company's called Finergo. So it's an Irish fintech company. And it's worth over 1.2 billion or whatever it is, how much it's worth now. But at the time they were only growing, so there was only 150 people working there in 2016, and I think it's over 1,500. It could be 2,000 now at the minute. But at the time they were expanding, so they they got a grant from Enterprise Ireland, or they got an investment from Enterprise Ireland, and they're looking to expand the organisation. So he just offered me, he said, look, there's graduate schemes coming up here if you want to apply for it and come in, and that's what I ended up doing. So I'll never forget, I was sitting at home after I came back from college, and I was just sitting there with my partner Samantha, and we were talking about, look, this job's here available if I want to take it, what do we do? And in all fairness, it was Samantha that said, look, in a couple of years you're going to be looking for a position like this anyway, so why wouldn't you not do it now when it's been offered, you know? So that's what you end up doing. So that's what made the decision.
Big decision though, right, to take a job halfway through a degree and leave the army.
Massive. I
suppose, were you I wouldn't say under pressure to leave the army, but did you just want out of the army then at that stage, or were you just done, like?
Yeah, I was done. Do you know what it was when the kids were born? So I have 2 kids, Quiva and Killian.
Yeah.
And it was when Quiva was born where I was saying I need to put something in place. It's grand. I found the army grand when it was just myself and Samantha and there's no responsibilities. The only thing I had to concern about was when playing football and hurling was making sure I was off for matches and training and stuff,
Yeah.
But then when you're bringing kids into it then as well, there's more time there, and I wasn't willing to sacrifice my time for the army away from the kids, and that. So since the kids were born, I was always looking and thinking about, what's my next move? How do I get out?
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than Friday evening and you're in the office and you're looking to go home in the evening, and all of a sudden I worked a bit in support company in the office doing administration, and on a Friday afternoon someone doesn't show up for duty or someone goes sick off a Saturday, and all of a sudden you don't have any names or whatever it is, and you're ringing people around, or you end up getting caught yourself. You have your weekend plan and all of a sudden now it's changed, you're on duty, So stuff like that I wanted to avoid. So I wanted to be able to get home every night of the week, and I want to spend my weekends with my family and my kids. So that was the decision. That was one of the main reasons of looking elsewhere,
Right. And how did you find then, right, down to finishing off the degree and working full time in the corporate world?
It was grand. They were actually very supportive. So I went in as a graduate. So I went in as a QA. So it's testing the systems to make sure that they're working properly after the development team write the code and stuff. I was going in and check the code. So it was a great way to actually learn the product. It was a great way then to learn the corporate world, because again it was something I'd never been involved in, and what they actually had then as well, they had a massive catalogue of interviews and videos of people from the organisation, training videos basically. So I ended up doing, to get up to speed with it, I think I spent the first year, I came into work probably an hour earlier. So say if I started at 9, I was coming in at 8 and doing an hour on learning the Fintech world, and then doing my day's work, and then the evening time then heading straight then over to DBS and doing the yoke. So it was grand, and because I was treated, say, as a junior member of the team, so there wasn't much pressure on you, so you there wasn't too much responsibility at the time when I was doing it. So it evolved quite quick then after that. It's quite, the stepping stones are quite steep in an organisation like that. So So that was it. I just managed, and poor old Samantha took up all the slack at home. She still is today, in all fairness. So fair play to her. Exactly. Yeah.
And you move on from Fenergo then, and you set up your own kind of technology company then.
Yeah. So what I ended up doing then, so I was in Fenergo. I started as a QA. Testing, and then I moved into a PMO office, which is a project management office. So we had clients around the globe, and we had projects working with those clients, and one of the main focus points that we had then in the PMO was looking to see, how can we support the teams, how can we put a process in place that we know that if you take these steps you're going to get the right outcome, because technology is quite fragile, as you probably know. When you're a project and you have deadlines, and there's people developing, there's people testing, and then there's the product consultant is getting stuff and they're adding things in, and the requirements are getting out of control. There's a lot of things going on. So the smoother or the better you can stick to a process during the whole timeline, the better it is. So that's what I focused in on. So I was really focusing in on what went well on the project. Can we do that across multiple projects? So that really taught me about the steps. So as in, if we do this and do this and do this, you get this outcome. So that was one thing that I was focusing on, and then the other part then was just with sports. So I've been playing sports for years, since I was 5. I'm still playing now, thanks at the minute. But the thing with GA or anything like that, they all have it. Pathway, like a development pathway, like the same thing. So at the age of 5 you should be focusing on this, and then at the age of 6 and 7 and 8 you should be doing these skills, So there's a process there. So I was always intrigued about how could we, like in the PMO, what can we do, or can we put things in place that if we were to get this information, we could nearly predict, or you could judge where a player is going to develop, or what areas of focus that they need to work on. so that was an idea. And then during the lockdown, the GA ran an international hackathon. It was like a technology competition.
Oh, okay.
So again, I stumbled it across on LinkedIn. Someone put up shared a post saying this is happening the next day.
Right.
So I said, I wasn't doing anything else. It was a Wednesday or something. I goes, here, I might as well do it. So I ended up logging in to the technology competition. I never done a hackathon before, so I didn't realise. I thought a hackathon was like something like you come up with an idea and you present the idea, and then they say, yeah, that's a great idea. But what they wanted was an actual. They wanted something developed. They wanted to see something at the end of it. So the first day during the hackathon, I had the idea anyway. But the first day, I realised that I didn't have the skills to actually to develop the product, or even an MVP, like or some sort of pilot version of the yoke. I didn't have the skills, so I rang a friend of mine that works in technology. He works on APC, an iOS developer.
Okay.
So I ended up getting him and dragged him into it. So after the 3 days, then we ended up winning it. So with the concept of, it was called the player passport, and the idea is that you work on skills at the age of 5, and you work on skills at 6 and 7, all the way through the different age groups. But you're building a profile of that person all the way through. So you're working on, like, say, the fundamental movements of a 5-year-old to make sure that they're able to run properly and jump properly and skip and stuff like that. And then as they go through, then as they're hitting 9 and 10, all of a sudden you look at the skill-based activity. So say for hurling, you're like, can they pick it up properly? Are their hands in the right positions on the hurl? Do they swing the hurl properly and stuff like that? So that was the idea, and we built the pilot anyway, and we ended up winning the competition. So we ended up, after the 3 days, we won the competition, and with that then came different grants and different supports, to actually take it to the next level. So that's what we ended up doing then. So we ended up taking the concept and then building the actual application itself. So to do that, then I worked with DCU. There's a group called Insight Analytics, and they're based in DCU, and what they do is research projects and stuff. And they were working on an initiative called Moving Well, Being Well, which was all about kids' movements at a young age. So if you get the right fundamentals done correctly, well then the chances of them being still involved when they're older and healthier and living a healthier exercise. That's the research project that they were doing. So they wanted to see the difference between, or the correlation. The correlation exactly between the two of them. And so they had a project done. So during actual lockdown, RTE were playing the Moving Well, Being Well videos. It was on RTE, one of the kids' channels and stuff. So they had all the data points at the time. So they had everything there. And then Dublin GA, I worked with as well. And again, they had all the different data points that they were capturing manually. So I took the stuff from with DCO, and I took the stuff from Dublin GA, and I brought it together and created then the application, so that was it. So once we had the application, that's the company came then afterwards, so that's where it is.
So the application itself, right, how does it work then? Are you like watching like what movements then you should have, like you're recording yourself and then like it's feeding in?
No, so basically the way it works is every coach has access to the application. It's a web-based application, so the coach has access to it. He logs in and he creates the profiles of the players. So he'll have it. He can only see, say, his team is 20 players on the team or whatever it is. And say, for example, he is under 10s, right? He has a set of skills that he needs to test the lads with for under 10s, right? So he goes in, and again, I'll use row lift for example. So say, for example, it's the row lift. So the coach will come in and look at young Jimmy or whatever it is doing the row lift, and it's as simple as he can or he can't do it, right? So you click on that and that's fine. So if you do that with the 20 kids and you do it with the 5 or 6 different skills that you're meant to do, all of a sudden now you get a real overview of areas of development or improvement or strength that you have within that team. So what happens then, once you have that information captured, then you can put a training plan into place to say, okay, we need to work on these skills. For the next 6 weeks, these are the exercises we're going to do. And then you test them again then after the 6 weeks or 8 weeks or wherever it is, and then you see where they're improving or where you need to focus in on even further. But if you do that, say, under 10s, but when you look at a club, if a club has 20, 30, 40 teams, all of a sudden, if every team is doing that, all of a sudden the club can get a higher level or a holistic view of where they are regarding development, you know. So that's where it works. And then you take it up the next level then, and you have it at a Dublin county level or Dublin GAA level. All of a sudden they're looking down and saying, okay, here's where we are at a county level regarding development, you know. So that's the goal, or that's the vision of where we're going to take that the player passport. And
so let's say, right, I'm a young 5-year-old, right? I go in and I kind of develop up through the ranks, through the different teams, right? And the coaches capturing the skills. Could then Dublin GAA or like county board, whatever it is, look at, you know, the overall data points for everybody and see who the best players are with the best skill levels, and then kind of bring them to trials then for a county.
Exactly, yeah. So once you have the information, there's a lot of stuff you can do. Obviously, GDPR and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of red tape around the area that you have to be careful with. But it can be used for multiple different purposes, you know, with the information. So, and that's the idea. We built another version of the product for DCU as well. So they're actually in primary schools looking at just focusing in on fundamentals. So that Moving Well, Being Well initiative that DCU initially done, it's like the next step on for that. So they run another project. So I built an application for them to allow them to capture that information as well. So when you think about it, like you're in primary schools, if that's across, and you're looking at fundamental movements of primary school kids, all of a sudden now there's changes that can be made nearly at a government level to say, okay, these are the things we need to put into place, because there's data being captured there to say, okay, for the health of kids going forward or whatever it is, that look, here's the data points. Because at the minute it's known that there is going to be issues. You can see the issues that there is in the health system at the minute, but also then in years to come, like if you don't get the kids off on the right step, all of a sudden in 20, 30, 40 years time you're going to have issues anyway. But so people know what is an issue there. The problem was there was no data being captured. So what the application does is capture those points, you know. So
that's mad actually. Like,
when you think about it,
can like even that could probably influence like the direction of like what should be taught in like PE subjects then like throughout the school years or whatever.
Exactly. So they're DCU are running that. So what I'm doing basically is I'm supporting the organisations to do that for themselves, you know, that way. So that's what's happening. So so it's going well at the minute, and then I'm working as a GPO with the GAA. So
what's a GPO? Sorry.
Yeah, it's a games promotion officer. So basically, what I'm doing there, I'm hired by the GAA to go in and promote the games within clubs. So the top I have on here, this is Erin Gabrad. This is who I'm involved with. They're based out in Unger, Clonee, just on the border with Clonee there. But so I'll go around and support them with the initiatives that they're trying to run within the club. So whether it's promotion through schools or summer camps or training courses or whatever it is, or coaching education, that's my job. I go in and provide that training for them, or the support they need.
So it's kind of like if, let's say, a school in Tala, let's say, you know, the primary school level like wanted to play for Ballyboden, you'd go into the school where Ballyboden is close to, and to promote kind of Ballyboden as a club, and then
exactly
get guys down or girls down for like camogie or hurling or gaff on open days basically in the club.
Basically, so the main target should be at the again, it's the 5 and 6 years of age. You want to get them at a grassroots level. When you get them there, you can have a bigger influence. If you're attracting kids, say the ages of 11 and 12, if they are into sports at that stage, they're already playing the sports, so they're either playing their basketball or their soccer or their whatever it is. So you really need to get them as early as possible. So say from junior infants up to first class would be your main target audience that you want to get. And then I'd run the nursery, say, on a Saturday morning then. So for them kids, so you have to be working within the schools during the week, then they have a face then on a Saturday morning that they recognise, and then hopefully that starts building the connection or the relationship between the child and the club for the future, you know.
Brilliant. That's cool. And so you're out of the army now, right? You're
out of the army,
you're doing all that now. Would you recommend the army as a career option now?
Good question. I probably would, because the skill sets that I have that I've got throughout my career, it's all been through the army, because it's been probably the only career that I had, and that's where I built up my foundation, like my own development, was all through the army. So I done nearly every course I possibly could as a private within the army. You know, like I done my first computer course was in the army. I done ECDL through the army. So they were all skills that I used as soon as I left. And it was brilliant, and it's a great place to learn as well. I don't know if you would recommend it or if he as a full career nowadays. Like my approach was always get as much as I could out of it, and then move on to something else. So I would recommend people doing that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like, I don't think it's for everybody. I don't think everybody should join, but I definitely think if you can get in and do 5 or 6 years, then take it. You'll learn a lot.
Yeah, I remember talking to lads when we were in Kosovo. I think they were Swedish or Finnish, and what they were doing was they went in and got a couple of courses. They got an overseas trip, and then they got their credits, so they got whatever they needed then to go back to college. It was like a stepping stone, or like a way to qualify to go back into college then. And like something like that would be ideal for the army, where you went in at a young age, not knowing probably what you want to do or whatever. Get your courses done, get an overseas trip done, mature a good bit or mature a lot, and then see where you want to go. But then have the steps in place to say, if I do want to go back to college, okay, here's your option, or we can make this happen through whatever schemes. And in all fairness, they are doing that. Like, again, I done my leaving cert, I done a PTI course. It wasn't a PTI course, but I studied sports in DCU, and the army helped me or supported me through that, with grants and stuff like that. So there is things there for people that if they want to go in and learn and then move on to something else.
It's there changes that. Like, if you get promoted now, I think you get the equivalent of a level 6, and then if you get promoted again, then sergeant's like level 7 and CS is level 8. So it's good in that sense. But in terms of like the transition then, right from like being a soldier kind of going out to the civilian world, how did you find the transition? Like, was it easy for you? Was it hard for you? Like, it sounds like you were pretty busy like during that transition. So
it was. And it probably helped me actually. The busy part. I think the hardest part was probably the language. Was learning to speak properly or what. You know, the way with the art, like you'd be having the crack or you'd be saying stuff that sometimes isn't probably appropriate for outside civilian life. But I found that probably to be the hardest, or speaking to. You know, I found in the corporate within the army, then there was always the structure or the ranking system there, and you always respected and listened, and you very rarely questioned the rank above you, or when you were told to do something or you were given an order, you did it. I found that actually quite challenging. That I still done that when I was in Fenergo, you were still doing that. But what they didn't want you doing that. They didn't want you agreeing with everyone all the time. What they wanted to do was people to push back and challenge the decisions being made. And I found that actually quite tricky to actually learn the challenge, because you'd be sitting in the boardroom similar to this, and you know they're doing something or they're saying something that's incorrect, or it might have a negative impact to a project, and you don't say anything initially. Now look, after about 6 or 7 months, when I got comfortable in it, then I was willing to speak up. But I think that was actually probably the most challenging part of the transition.
Well, it's the same. I think, like, because like I obviously worked on opposite or whatever, like, you have to get sign off on like certain decisions or whatever, right? Like, I'd always be saying, is it okay if I do this? Like, or is this okay? Like, I've got this done, but can I do it? Like, I was like asking for permission, like, so it can be. I know what you mean. Tricky, I was over in Paris. I was there about a year. I was in Fintech about a year, and I was still testing, and we were signed there with a client, a huge client. Anyway, but we were in a boardroom, and I was representing the QA, which is the testing, and I was asked a couple of questions, and you know yourself, I wasn't sure of them. Like, I was still a junior, you know, and I was like, and you're doubting yourself, or you're not sure whether to back yourself, you know. And then, in all fairness, I was talking to one of the senior members of the company then at the time, and they were saying, look, go in there with confidence, make your decision. If it's not right, it can be fixed or whatever, but you back what you think is best. And that was probably the best advice that I got, because that was the attitude that I always have, and I still have to today now because of that. But very funny, very daunting then. I was in the Oak, I was far from the Glen of Amal that day in the middle of Paris, funny. But I suppose there was a question asked right at a seminar. Is that like it was like an ex-army thing with O&E, and it was like, do you think the defence forces creates entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
I've only asked it to 2 or 3 different people. Like, but what's your opinion? Like, do you think the defence forces creates entrepreneurs, or do you think it creates leaders?
It's a good question. I don't know. I think it provides you with the skill sets. I think the army provides you with skill sets that you can take into any walk of life. To be honest, like the skill sets that I've picked up, like small, like punctuality or neat dress or stuff like that, or how to respond or how to treat people with respect, or doing stuff that you might necessarily agree with. That, like, although you say you want to be pushing back, but being able to do something and say, right, there's a bigger cause for this, or it's for a bigger reason and stuff like that. So all those type of skills that you learn in the army, it's stuff that you use outside, or stuff that you should be doing outside. So I think it depends on the person. I think the skills are there, the opportunities are there to do whatever you want, as in upskilling and stuff like that through the army. So yeah, you could see why it develops leaders, especially with young officers doing the cadetship. Like, it's very intense. The cadetship is very intense. I think it's 2 years or whatever they do, and then they're dropped straight into a leadership role. And I can imagine how intimidating it is with a young officer in his early 20s, and he's dealing with an old sergeant that's close to retirement, and he's been around the block. He's probably 2 or 3 times his age or whatever, you know. So you can see how that dynamic can develop leaders, and even with entrepreneurs. The amount of people I've met through, like, that were in the army, that are out doing their own thing or have their own companies and stuff like that as well. So I don't think you get another job that would be able to provide you with those skills.
No, I don't think so either. Part of camaraderie as well.
Exactly.
It's very different. I won't say I didn't, like, it was a bit turbulent for me, like, leaving. Like, well, like, I didn't know, like, you know, like, I didn't, like, I left school, right? I went into the army, and it was all I knew for like 10 years. Till I was in my late 20s. And then I was going into this corporate job where, like, off you go now, it's on you. Yeah,
it's the unknown, really, is it?
It's okay if I do this, like.
It's like,
just get it.
Let's do it. But I don't. That's only. It's a phase. It's just a bit of, like, retraining, or just switch the mindset. Exactly. That's all. Exactly.
But I don't know. I think it creates both entrepreneurs and leaders. But, like, I had another guy on, the CEO of Skillsets, Jason, and he was saying it probably creates more leaders because you're taught to conform, like, you know, and just send that message down and get it done. Whereas, like, I don't think it creates both, right? Because, like, a lot of soldiers have mixers, right? Like, I know I was doing photo booths at the weekend as well.
Was it? Is that what you were doing? At weddings and stuff, was it? Yeah.
So I was like, and then you have, like, lads that would be like PTs, and would have their own, like, boot camps and stuff like that in the mornings for work, and you know, doormen or whatever. And then some lads have some funky mixers, some lads are taxi drivers or whatever. So I don't know. Like, I think the make a money mindset is definitely exists.
I don't. It could be. Now you could put that down to because the wage is so poor that people have to go out and do another job as well.
That's the side of it.
I think if the drive is there, like, you can tell, like, some lads. I know lads that went into the army and done nothing, and then end up leaving with nothing, you know. And then other lads that absorb everything or do every course to upskill themselves and go out flying. So I think it's down to the person and using the opportunities that present themselves for you, you know. So.
Definitely an attitude.
100%.
And everyone drives it off. But do you have anything else to do?
No, all good.
Any questions for me?
No, grand.
Right, cool. Well, look, thanks so much for coming on.
Fair play.